just an awesome, beautiful blast.
This thing, years ago, sandblasts were almost always done.
Yeah. Well, because, you know, I hate to pick on Dunhill, but I mean, Dunhill had a lot of wood that, in my opinion, and remember I said everything is in my opinion tonight, that just wasn't that great of wood, you know. And it doesn't mean that it isn't going to smoke good, you know, but they used it to hide it. And Dunhill made a lot of beautiful sandblasts in the 40s and the 50s, you know. I mean, really beautiful. So I think a lot of it came from that. Also, when you're talking about, you know, years ago, I mean, you're talking the less expensive pipes, the drugstore pipes, you know, and that was an easy way to hide them, you know. Sandblast them, paint them black, or don't even sandblast them, just paint them black, you know, because it hid stuff. But because, and the other thing I should say, I mean, is that when you have a flaw, it always comes out black. You cannot, I mean, you know, I'm sure we've all heard all this stuff that goes on about fills and this and that. Let me tell you, you can't hide a fill. A fill comes out black on a pipe. It's black, 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 period. So that's one reason that black is used.
He's laughing.
And the other thing about fills, I got to tell you guys, is that there's people that fill don't use putty, not nowadays. I mean, we used to use putty, you know, back in the old GBD days and so forth. You can find GBDs that had putty in them. But there's no putty nowadays. If there's a fill in the pipe, you ain't going to see it because it ain't putty anymore. You know, putty's easy to see in a pipe. Unless it's a drugstore pipe. I mean, I'm talking, you know, stuff that's $100 and up, you know. So, let's see what else is there on here. Oh, here's another rustication. And this pipe is only partially rusticated, but this is some really great rustication. Rustication, frankly, takes longer than sandblasting does. I mean, you know, a rusticator can spend hours on a rusticated pipe.
You've seen him do a whole pipe like this, which will knock you out. It's really beautiful.
He's probably one of the best, if not the best, rusticator in the world.
That's Dr. Bob.
Dr. Bob Keys.
Yeah. We're going to have him again next year.
Really beautiful stuff. Somebody was asking about crosscut. This is a crosscut blast here, and this is a heavy crosscut blast. If you go on I couldn't pull the pictures for some reason off of the site, but if you go on Bruce Weaver's site, you will see a pipe that is cross-cut, that is sand carved, that is almost exactly similar to this, okay, as far as the blasting. And it'll show you the difference dramatically, what can happen. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful carving. But it's sand carved, and this is just relief. This just is what the sand blaster would give me. The other thing to look for when you're looking for sand carving or sand blast is look at, you know, we've already talked about the ring grain, and I guess you guys got to see these pictures, and you know, it just doesn't happen. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, Lee is one of my very best friends, and I got to tell you, it's if he's following the grain, I don't know what he's following here, but this will show you what happens with straight grain. There's straight grain. Look at how this thing wanders everywhere on there, and that's what somebody who likes sandblasting likes, is that relief and that difference in it. Oh, here's an old. This is a really old Sheraton. This is probably 60, you know, close to 60. It could be 50s, late 50s, or early 60s Sheraton. And take a look at this. This is a blast. They didn't even sand carve in those days. And there's a great relief. And that's one of the few that I've seen that actually has some circular grain on it. Sure. This thing, this pipe is loaded, and I've been smoking it, but if anybody wants to see, you can see ring grain on here, you can see straight grain, you can see bird's eye on here. This pipe has everything on it as far as glass, and it's really to keep it upright so we don't
Thanks for coming.
on everybody.
Why do they have, like,
Okay, Joe, the reason, yeah, it's some of it's contrast, and the other reason is you gotta have some place to stamp. So when you stamp, you know, I just personally, this is my touch to it. I add a little bit of smooth on the bottoms of the shanks for it. And, you know, same thing here, you know, and it just, and a contrast in color. You know, and some guys like it, some don't, you know.
oh yeah, well, I like small pipe, because my teeth don't stand.
There you go, yeah. There's another one. I personally like that one a lot.
Yeah,
Good smoker? Good to hear.
Here's a red one that bothered me.
Yeah. Now Larry's got, this is when we're talking about briar and the differences, remember I said different briars relieve differently. This is a 60-year-old briar. This is called red Algerian. Very old briar, and it really makes a difference in how this is another red Algerian. It's really open grain on this glass. Here's let's see, this is, what is this one? This is Grecian, and look at the open grain on this. Yet you still got some little bit of ring and so forth. So that's it, guys. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Here's another hunk of Grecian that's just got stuff all over the place. And that's what you got to decide. So, any more questions? Everybody?
I see a pipe I like.
Yeah.
I see a pipe I like.
It's going to sound like a weird question, but you know, the pipe goes through different fashions or phases, whatever.
I know.
Now that there's people become aware there's two distinct types of sanding, I suppose. I know it's not sanding, but treating with sand or shaping with sand either way. What do you think will be more fashionable? Which will be more desirable?
Well, of course, you're asking me something that's totally subjective. Right?
Of course, yeah. Well, it's all your opinion.
In my opinion, right now, there's blast that